everybody. This is episode. A couple kind of basic housekeeping things that I want to cover in this episode. It's been a long time since I found out about this stuff, so I tend to take it for granted and forget that a lot of people don't know about these things yet. So I just want to cover some kind of basic things that it's a good idea to have in place. The first of which is getting associated with a performance rights organization or a PRO. You may have heard of them and just not known that's what they were, but the big ones in North America are BMI and ASCAP. There are a few other ones, but those are the two big ones. So what they do is they exist to track public use of copyrighted material and collect royalty payments for that for artists. So they made these a long time ago to track use of music on like in the background at I don't know, restaurants, malls, gyms, whatever. Or various other public uses that didn't also, or that weren't also covered by a licensing agreement. It's important to still have these things regardless of whether you have any desire to put your music in any of those venues, because public use let me back up a little bit. Streaming services, that counts as public use. YouTube views, that sort of thing. If anyone uses your music in the background of a YouTube video and they haven't licensed it from you specifically to do so, these would be things that those organizations track. So you want to have your entire works registered with one of these organizations so that you can make sure that if somebody's using your music, you're still going to get paid for it. And I mean, there's no sense in trying to fight the reality of the digital age where people are going to stream your music and probably use your music in numerous capacities that would have been considered illegal not all that long ago. But if you have a couple pieces of infrastructure in place, this being one of them, you can still make sure that you're getting paid for most of it. So here's how we get set up with one of those. I'll do a screen share here. Actually, I think I'll just show you what the kind of what the sign up process looks like, and then what the details of my account look like. Just a couple things to keep in mind when you're registering, and some stuff to know about royalties and copyrighted material in general. Let me start with copyrighted material and then circle back. So, copyrighted material under U.S. law. That's the way I heard this worded. It's anything that is put on more than a transitory medium. So anytime you record a song, you're already protected under U.S. copyright law for that sound recording. You don't have to register it, but there are some advantages to registering a copyright, and maybe the biggest one of which is that there will be an established record of you being the copyright owner. So if anyone ever tries to fight you on it, it'll be very easy to prove that it's yours. Otherwise, there's sort of a rigmarole you have to go through. So the other thing with royalties, once you have copyrighted material and you're collecting royalties on these, the royalties are split 50-50 between the artist and the publisher. That's important to know. So 50-50 artist and publisher. That's one thing. The other thing that is equally important to know is that you can be your own publisher. And if you're independent, you probably should be. So the way you be your own publisher is you just have to exist as some sort of entity, and you can do that by registering as a publisher with one of these PROs. So at the same time you register as an artist, I suggest registering yourself as a publisher too. I did it on both BMI and ASCAP. You don't need to do it on both. In fact, I'm not sure there's any advantage to doing it on both at all. I just sort of wound up doing that by virtue of circumstance and nothing else. It was a lot easier on ASCAP, and it was also cheaper. I think it was like $150 to register as a publisher, but that $150 guarantees that I will be receiving 100% of the royalties for my music. And then, of course, the artist's portion, the 50-50 split on the artist portion, that will be broken down amongst my band members. So, be your own publisher. Keep in mind that if you aren't collecting that 50% of royalties, it's just not going to go anywhere. So, that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. Anyway, here's the screen share on what it looks like to go through the process on ASCAP. So this is ASCAP. It's not just an awesome name, it's an acronym, but it's beside the point. So if you've never used this before, you need to create an account with them. They cater to two types of people. There are those of us who make music, that's what we're concerned with, and there are those who want to license music, but that is presumably not the majority of people watching this. So if you haven't joined, you need to go through the process of doing that. I'm not going to do it again because it costs money, but oh man, okay, so they've got this now. They did not have this when I signed up. This would have been nice. This is actually cheaper than when I did it. As I mentioned before, royalties are split evenly. Some of it goes to the artist and the other half of it goes to the publisher. So if you want to be your own publisher, you'll retain 100% of your royalties. If you're not your own publisher, then that's leaving half of your money on the table. Which, in the case of signing with a major label or something, that depending on your goals, that may be worth it. But looks like you can sign up as a writer and a publisher at the same time. So that's not how I did it, but hey, if they've made improvements, I'm all for it. So really all you have to do to sign up is just, it's a fairly entailed process, but the prompts are pretty obvious. It does require you to have some documentation, so you may have to stop this process and come back to it a few times. But let's look at what it looks like once you've actually joined. Hopefully I can remember my login. Oh, good, my computer remembered it for me. Alright, cool. So the way they organize things is with what they call works. So a work, this was slightly confusing to me. I didn't know if a work was an album or an individual song. It's an individual song. So when you go to register a song with this organization, you use this piece of navigation right here. You register a work, imagine that. You're going to put the title of the song, and then you're going to have to go through and add everyone who is going to be counted as a writer in this case. So if you have a band and there are multiple writers on each piece of music, they're all going to have to register if they want to be accounted for in here. I don't know what the legal ramifications of collecting all the royalties and distributing them yourself are, but again, my videos aren't legal advice, so figure that one out on your own. Anyway, let's just say that this is, I don't actually want to go ahead and finish the registration, so we'll just call this test song. I'll add myself on there. Yes, that's my full name. The writer has authorized, because that is me. Role, composer and author. Oh, there is a distinction there. Composer is just music, author is lyrics. So make sure you account for both. So each share between the publisher and the writer has to total 50%. So if I'm the only one on this, I put my share as 50%. And then I need to select a publisher. This is why you need to be your own publisher or have a publisher set up. So I have, which ones are actually mine? Okay, so this is not me. This is just something with the same name as the record label that I made to put out this last record. So this is my publishing number, and this is the same version of that, just on BMI instead of ASCAP. So the registration process for becoming a publisher is more or less the same as it is for becoming a creator. But let's just put that in there. Territory, yes, it's worldwide. You can choose a region, but unless you're working with an actual publisher that deals with this in different regions, and you're not doing this kind of the indie way by using a digital distribution service, which we'll talk about in the next video. You can just go ahead and put world, and then if it's a single publisher, just put in 50% of the share. Boom, boom, totals 100%. If you need to add a writer, they have a prompt for it. This is why I like ASCAP. It's pretty user-friendly. BMI it's not bad, but it's a little trickier than this. So then they have a couple questions here to ask about it. Has the work been performed? Okay, yes, it's been performed by my band. So I'll put that in there. Is it a concert work? No, that deals more with like symphonic works or things that are going to be publicly performed by groups of musicians that are not you. Is it intended for commercial film or other? Does it include sample? No. Public domain elements? No. Has it been recorded? Yes. Okay, so this is us again. Same title as the song. Test song. Whatever the release date was, and then the ISRC code. We'll come back to the ISRC code. It's not mandatory that you have one of these. It's just a way of cataloging your works that you'll usually, I believe you usually create these with the digital distribution service. There's a format for making these that the mastering engineer who did our last record told me. It's like a country code, and then there's something to do with the year, and then there's like a 5 or 6 digit number that comes after it, and that identifies your work uniquely, just in case there are other things that come out with the same name and so forth. And then if you know the length of the song, you can enter it there. You click submit, and then you have saved work. So let's take a look at, that's not very fun. Alright, so once you have your works added, then, okay, great, now go away. I understand. Alright. So I think it's giving me these prompts because I also have them registered under my creator account, and this is my publisher account. But here, I mean, we have everything from all of our records is uploaded in here, and if you were to go in and look at all of these, they have all the individual contributing writers. And yeah, there we go. So that is how you get signed up with and then register your works with ASCAP.